in a nutshell, my challenge is qualifying or pre-qualifying leads.
I love bookkeeping.
Welcome, everyone, to the I Love Bookkeeping show. I'm your host, Ben Robinson, and today we've got a treat, as we always do. The gentleman that I have with me is owner and president of Lion Share Bookkeeping. He is from Oklahoma, and he studied at the University of Oklahoma. So for all you SEC fans out there like me, we want to throw things at him, but let's keep that out of the equation here today. Because at Oklahoma, I found this very interesting. He studied accounting and the viola, which I was corrected because I said viola. At both of them, very, very good combination right there. His niche, he works with real estate investors, and we are glad to have with us today Ben Day. Welcome.
Hi, Ben. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. You nailed the viola. We're good to go here.
Yeah, awesome. I literally said it viola and in the pre-show, and that was great. So, again, thanks for being here with us today. Let's just start getting right into it. What in the world possessed you to start your own bookkeeping business?
Well, so the best place to hop in here is kind of the new year going into 2017. I had already graduated with both my bachelor's degrees, and I'd actually worked part-time contracting for a local music guy who did like 8 things at a time and needed the help and just needed a number 2 to make all the wheels turn. And that was really cool until music ended up not being lucrative, surprise, surprise. And I was out of a job. And so at that point, I'm looking and I'm trying to build a sort of a freedom lifestyle, use the skills that I have. And it just, as I was searching, Facebook ads caught me and said, "Hey, do you want to own a bookkeeping business?" And I started thinking about it, and I was thinking about real estate, and I was thinking about cryptocurrency and all of this really fun, sexy stuff. And the more I got into it, the more I realized that I could provide huge value as a bookkeeping professional to these markets, especially real estate investors.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so you obviously found a great course, Bookkeeper Business Launch. I will tout my own product, of course, right there. But that's where you kind of started that in, you said, I believe, April of 2017. Is that correct?
Yes, I tried like I said, I tried the cryptocurrency and I read all the real estate books in the spring of 2017. And then the day that Bitcoin went down and Ethereum went up, I sold out and used the cash to buy into Bookkeeper Business Launch in March 2017 and for my LLC in April of 2017.
Awesome. And here we are. So it's about 2 years later. And how many clients do you serve right now?
27.
27 clients. Are all of them in the real estate investments niche?
I like to say that 99% of what I do is in real estate. I've got 2 that are sort of in marketing, but also in real estate. And then I've got like one other person that's just kind of weird. But everything that I do is mostly real estate investors, whether it's, landlords, house flippers, wholesalers, or any of the derivatives they're in.
Okay. All right. Great niche to have, by the way. And you're very smart to do that. Did you niche right from the get-go, or is this something that you stumbled onto?
So I was actually going to niche in breweries when I first got started. I was like, man, I could drink beer and do numbers all day. Like I'll do that anyway.
You become a better bookkeeper the more beer you drink.
I fundamentally believe that. That is a prerequisite. But as I was beginning to kind of look at that and unpack it, I realized that all the breweries that I wanted to work with were closed when I could get to them, when I could begin to connect with them, because I was working full time at the time. And so I go to my dad and some other men and women in my life, and they just kind of point out to me that Oklahoma City has this really growing real estate investor market. And if I could just help those guys, it would just, or guys and gals, it would be incredibly valuable to everybody. They'd be able to get loans, provide housing, and I could afford my own rent and all of that good stuff.
That's a very important component of starting your business right there. Being able to pay your own rent. All right, so 27 clients now, started off with nothing, started from the bottom, now we're here. for all the rap fans out there. So has it been just an easy road, all rainbows and puppy dogs to get to where you are today, or has it been a continual grind?
It hasn't been an easy road today. I've put out a lot of fires in the last 6 hours. So that's just the way it is. There's a lot of ups and downs. It is a roller coaster.
Yeah. So you don't just get 27 clients by sitting and doing bookkeeping inside of your office. There's something that you do. What's your marketing secret? How did you get these 27 clients in such a short period of time?
So for people that are not familiar with the Oklahoma landscape, when I started my business, I was in the college town, Norman, Oklahoma, University of Oklahoma, Boomer Sooner. So Norman is about 40 minutes away from Oklahoma City, which is where all of the action happens. That's where all the meetups are. That's where all of the professionals are. There's some really good people in Norman and all the small towns, but if you want to play with the big boys, you got to be in Oklahoma City. And so about 3 times a week, I would get in the car at 4 p.m., 5 p.m., whatever it is, drive up to Oklahoma City and spend 6 hours per day whenever I was up there, just networking, connecting, and trying to figure out how I could provide value. And that quickly turned into, hey, you know what you're doing. Do you want to do my books? And that was the kicker. It was just sheer time and getting in front of people.
Wow. Any specific ways in which you got in front of people?
Meetup.com was the best thing for me. I found Facebook groups and stuff later that I could meet people in person with, but really just whether it's a paid group or like free and it looks like it's going to be the worst, there are people there that want to connect with you. Everybody at a meetup group isn't super extrovert looking to just hand out a million business cards. There are people there that have problems. There are people there that are looking for people to connect with. And so just taking it slow, finding those people, asking questions, engaging them. That's the secret sauce, man, every time. I'm about to rinse and repeat that exact same process when I move from Oklahoma City to Lawrence, Kansas. And I'm going to do this exact same thing, just drive to Kansas City and connect and integrate myself in the community before I ask anybody for any money.
That's an awesome thing. Now, will you be able to keep your clients in Oklahoma City and in Oklahoma when you move?
Yes. So I serve clients in 13 states. And I like to remind all of the good old boys in Oklahoma that my mom still lives here. So I will be back, and I will be back often.
I gotcha. Oh, that's all. So you set your business up so it doesn't matter where your clients are or where you are, you can make it work.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's all, even the guys that live down the street from me only see me only at the meetups when I run into them. We don't actually meet in person for delivery or anything like that.
Yeah. And what was the reason for you wanting to set it up like that rather than having a storefront, having a physical location? What was the reasoning behind that?
Oh, so this is great. So I formed my business in April 2017 because I knew that I needed a freedom lifestyle of sorts. I knew that I needed to be able to just pick up and go and still make money, whether that's active or passive. And I wasn't quite sure how it was going to get done. Obviously, BBL really promoted building a virtual business so that you can pick up and move. But the kicker for me was in August. The connections I had made in the music community before I started my business gave me the opportunity to go play in Eisenstadt and Vienna, Austria for 2 weeks that August. And so I'm sitting in Austria on the river, drinking $3 bottles of wine 2 blocks away from where that was grown. And it just occurred to me, it was like, man, what if I could do my job from right here or my couch or anywhere else or the beach? And that was when I just kind of committed. It was like any yahoo can go pay rent somewhere. It's building a virtual business is a little more of a challenge, but the payoff is huge here.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And we tout the virtual business lifestyle just for the very reasons that you mentioned. And you could be, a parent who wants to put their child on and off the bus. And it just gives the ultimate, as you mentioned, in freedom lifestyle and flexibility and being in control. I always say that I am unemployable, meaning there's no way that I could work for someone else. I don't know. How about you? What do you say, Ben?
Man, I don't ever want to say never, but it would take a lot.
Yeah. Must be something about the name Ben that we just don't want that. We want to write our own story.
Exactly. Yeah. Why would I do somebody else's thing when I can do my thing?
Yeah. So what has been so we talk about obviously getting to the 27 clients, and today, being one of those days that we all have. I've had a week of technology hell here, but things always come around. So let's talk about some of the specific challenges that you met in growing your business from 0 to 27 in 2 years. So we always think about like that first client. That's kind of a hurdle that we get over right there. But what other than that is some specific challenges that you have faced and conquered over the time?
A lot of fear setting is kind of, if we're just going to be really general and then dive deep. I mean, when you think about bookkeepers, you don't think about these overachieving personalities. You think maybe introvert. If you're a fan of the disc profile, you're thinking an S and a C, maybe not a D or an I. And so some of the big hurdles were just like, yeah, you just got to go do something. You just got to go talk to somebody. You got to connect with somebody on LinkedIn. You got to post an ad somewhere. It's not going to be perfect, and that needs to be okay because you just need to put in the effort. And so as it's kind of every day, I find new fears and see what I can do to conquer them and overcome them. But it's been, how do I talk to people about their money and their business? And how do they want me to talk to them about their money and their business? Advertising is an issue. Sales is an issue. Pricing is a big challenge. And then obviously one of the big challenges for me is in the qualification process. And how do I begin to provide value to everyone that I talk to, provide major value to the very specific niche that I talk to? And then at what point can I begin to upgrade them and upgrade the conversation to, can I help you with this instead of just telling you what to do?
Gotcha. So let's drill down a little bit on the fear part. We have found in serving over 7,000 people in Bookkeeper Business Launch that fear is the number one impediment of not getting the life that you want. In fact, we identified a great book. I read a book. I bought, this is what I do. I bought 12 books or something like that on fear off of Amazon. Box comes to my house, and one weekend I consumed them all. One that really resonated with me was by a book by the name of Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway by Dr. Susan Jeffers. And I liked it so much that we actually send a copy to each and every student that signs up because we know, again, that that's the biggest debilitating factor in getting the life that we want, to having success. So would you categorize yourself as an introvert?
Yes, that's where I'm the most comfortable, but I've learned to turn it on, so to speak. But yeah, at the end of the day, leave me alone. I'll be in the corner feeling good about myself.
There you go. Alcohol does help with that, and beer.
It does a little bit, yeah.
But sometimes it helps too much. But therefore, we digress. Let's don't stay there. So obviously, I'm an introvert. I think most bookkeeping professionals are introverts as well, and that's totally okay as long as you feel the fear and do it anyway. Do the things that you know you need to do, even when you don't want to do them. So, like, walk us through. If you went to a meetup, and you know that there were people there that you wanted to introduce yourself to, what did you do?
There's really nothing easy or attractive about it. You just walk up to that person with your hand sticking straight out and make something come out of your mouth, and then you rinse and repeat that process, and it gets a little better every time, where maybe you're not walking around at 90-degree angles. Instead, you actually, it looks like you have a handshake, you want to have a conversation. That is the definition of feeling the fear and doing it anyway. It's not going to be pretty. It's going to be sort of miserable, but you just have to do it. And so now my process for meeting people at meetups is I'll probably try to find somebody there that I know and ask for an introduction, because that's the best way to meet anybody, is through kind of referral and connection. Otherwise, I'm just walking up and I'm going to engage them. If it's a meetup, it's either about entrepreneurship or real estate. And I can hang with both of those topics very well. And so we just talk about deals and clients and workflows and systems. And before you know it, that person is your best friend.
Yeah. I hear confidence in your voice. And let's talk about that. So 2 years ago when you were starting this, I bet I hear a different Ben. Is this correct?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. So I thought that. So, um, what has given you this confidence in your business? Because I can just hear it exuding from you, and that's a great thing to have, right? Having that confidence is the opposite of having that fear. But has there been something key to gaining this confidence in your business?
Uh, Nothing makes you feel quite like a rock star, like providing value to somebody, and then they saying, "This is the best thing I've ever had. I'm going to tell everyone about you." Um, and it's right now. It's a good time for that conversation right now. It's the beginning of February as we're recording this, and I've talked to every client. Everybody's getting their taxes squared up and put away. And so many different people are just floored, night and day difference between the bookkeeping services I'm providing and the sort of bookkeeping services that they came from. And that's confidence it's really tied to a lot of other people, which is probably not super healthy for me. But it's that in the short term and the experience and knowing that I'm good at what I'm doing in the long term. It's been wonders for me in my business.
That's awesome, man. I'm proud of you. That is so good. So, do you have anybody else helping you with these 27 clients?
I love this question. Technically,
Technically, oh, there's something here. I feel a challenge coming up.
sure. It's like the core of this question is: do you have other bookkeepers? I feel like that's the easy way to interpret it. And the answer is no. I'm a one man show. I do all the entries. I do all the consultations. I do all the admin stuff, except I don't do any of my own organic marketing or website design. I have a great team of people that do that for me that I outsource to. And then I have a great procedure writing company that I work with that is helping me scale. They're kind of giving me that security blanket so I can feel like I can just go and do, and somebody's building the systems behind me. And then I've got coaches and mentors and buddies. And it's being an entrepreneur is so incredibly lonely that you just need people around you in all aspects. And so to say that you're doing it alone is short-sighted.
Yes, absolutely. All right. So I've never heard of one thing that you just mentioned there. A procedure writing company.
Oh my, can we plug this?
What in the world? Yeah, let's hear
Yeah.
about it.
So there's a young man that lives here in Oklahoma City named Brandon Turner. And his website and his company is proceduresheets.com. And I think it's in the BKE group too.
Okay. All right. All right. So for those of you who don't know, BK is a bookkeeper elite, another mastermind that we run and Ben is a part of. But that is proceduresheets.com, right?
Exactly.
And so what exactly is his value proposition? What is he doing for you?
So what Brandon understands is that entrepreneurs fundamentally wear too many hats, and that they're terrified that if they take off even one of those hats, their whole business will collapse. And so they work themselves to death, 100-hour weeks, can't go on vacation because their business will disappear if they leave for a second. And as an entrepreneur, and I'm sure you can identify at least a little bit with this, that feeling becomes very real as you begin to scale and as you begin to grow, whether you're solo or whether you have a team. And so his proposition is just do what you do. And I will follow you around with a camera, or we'll do some screen capture. You can talk us through your processes, and we will put them, we'll make them a visual chart, or we'll make them a checklist. We can then begin to host systems so you can outsource and delegate these tasks pretty efficiently. And as we begin to build these procedures, you're going to build it, and then you're going to realize that maybe it wasn't as specific as you wanted, and they'll go back in and update those for you. And it is really a long-term relationship that you're looking at, but it just makes the delegation and the actual procedure writing process so much easier. I mean, this is what the guy does for a living, is coaches people on how to coach other people in their systems.
Wow, I wonder who coaches him though.
Right, exactly.
Who's the coach for the coach for the coach? No, that is a great resource, and I appreciate you sharing. Thank you so much. We'll put that in the show notes, proceduresheets.com. It's hard for me to say it at the end of a day. And I have not been drinking beer. Maybe that's the problem right there.
That's definitely
All
the
right. I
problem.
don't know how beers come up several times. I promise. I can't promise that. All right. So let's kind of shift gears here. Obviously, you've had a lot of success up to this point, but one of the things that we like to do on the I Love Bookkeeping show is to help you with challenges. And we know that everybody out there has not only challenges, but so much opportunity in our industry today. There's never been a better time to be a bookkeeping professional. Yes, we're going through a lot of changes. Every industry is. We need to embrace those, and we need to become what we call a 21st century bookkeeper. But Ben, I want to talk to you today about a specific challenge or opportunity that is in front of you. So I would like for you to describe to me and to everyone listening, what is your challenge?
So I touched on this a little bit before, but in a nutshell, my challenge is qualifying or pre-qualifying leads. There's such a big emphasis on telling people what you do or what they should do for free, and then showing them how to do it or doing it for them for a fee. And that's bookkeeping in a nutshell. I can tell you to go do debits and credits, or I can do them for you as a bookkeeping professional. And so my challenge really is, where is the line between, you really just need to go do this and figure this out and make some sales, and where is, hey, I can really do this for you. And what does that process look like in between? How do we make sure that that funnel really works well? Is there a tripwire? Is there a lead magnet? Are there quick wins? Et cetera, et cetera. How do we qualify these leads for our business?
Okay. So let's dive into the root of this. And the root of this question, have you been burned?
So many times.
Okay. Describe an instance of being burned in this.
So one of the great ways that bookkeepers begin to measure their work is by number of bank transactions or credit card transactions. And you begin to say, okay, how many bank and credit card transactions do you have in a month? This might just be real estate, or it might be multiple industries. But another term for doing a real estate deal is transaction. And so I'll have people, at least previously, who would sign up for services and say, oh, I maybe do 5 transactions a month. I'm like, oh, well, you're small time. We can do this for X cost or whatever it is. And then I get involved and they have 200 bank transactions a month. They have 8 credit cards, and it's this big deal. And now suddenly I have to turn around and say, hey, this is going to be at least twice what we talked about. And that's just a bad feeling to have. So then when you're a fledgling business owner, you're just, okay, well, I'll just do it anyway. And then you just get caught in a vicious cycle. And so that is just classic how I've been burned. There have been a lot of other sorts of situations like that, but there's sort of the conversation and the knowledge and the communication is where that begins to fall apart.
As do most problems in life.
Yes.
That's awesome. Okay. So let's step back just a second. Do you, to make ends meet, to feed yourself and your family, do you need more clients, more money in your bank account?
No.
Okay. So getting new clients, qualifying leads is no longer I got to have this to survive type of thing. You've passed that barrier in your life, correct?
Yeah, I got money for ramen and rent. So it's not a
R&R.
Yeah.
Ultimate R&R right there. Okay. So the first thing that you have right at your side is an advantage. Advantage Ben, because you don't have to take on any new clients. Okay. So kind of going back to mindset and how important this is to understand that you don't have to have any more clients. So when that's the case, you can be more selective. You can be very selective in your client process. And we're going to walk through that here today. Okay. Now, when we're looking at all of this, we talk about scaling a business. And by scale, people define it in different ways. But basically the way I do it is that the way I define it is that you're getting other people to take care of most of the work for you. You're able to focus on the higher level things, the things that you enjoy, where you provide the right value for your business. Going back to what your friend Brandon Turner, I believe it was, you wear too many hats. As bookkeeping professionals, we wear too many hats. And so that's what scale is. And there's really 4 components of it. There's strategy, There's team, there's execution, and there's profitability. Strategy, team, execution, and profitability, what we call the STEP. And so this right here, okay, what you're saying, well, there's no marketing. Well, marketing is definitely strategy, right? Strategy is really marketing, or it has a lot to do with it. So when we look at this, first thing we want to do is identify, where are we? So we're in the strategy part here. Okay, now it bleeds over, right? We all know that if we don't have good processes and systems, that our team is really going to be, and we're not going to be very profitable. But let's really focus on the S, this strategy right here. So first thing I want you to do is understand this mindset that you don't need any more clients, right? It's like the pretty girl that's at the bar and all the guys are looking and oohing and awing. She can be very selective, right? Because there's a bunch of demand out there. So that's the first thing. So that it takes the pressure off of you when you realize this. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's definitely kind of a shift now from like 6 months ago, where I was still high growth because I didn't have ramen money. And so I definitely feel the difference now. It's yes, basically there's more there, but we can keep moving.
Okay. All right. So that's the first thing, just to understand that, because we get in this frenzy and we get a high every time we get a client, right? It's like an affirmation. It's one of the biggest highs that we can have in our bookkeeping business, or any business for that matter. That's the first thing. Now, walk me through. Okay, so going back to what you mentioned earlier, these leads are coming from a direct contact, you shaking their hand for the most part, correct?
For the most part, I would say 75% of my leads are either a direct physical contact, or it's a referral from somebody that I have had contact with in the past, whether it's a client or a referral partner.
Okay. Now, what I'm about to share with you is something that's probably going to shock a lot of people, because it seems like the opposite of marketing. And it's this. I want you to make your prospects work to get in to see you. And we're not doing this to be ogres. We're doing this so that we don't waste their time and we don't waste our time. Because at the end of the day, if you go through all this process, because we all know that prospecting for a client is not a 2-hour deal. I mean, you can spend hours and hours and days and lots of resources where you could have been doing other stuff to land a client, right? So one thing that we need to make them do is to work to get in front of us. So the reason I ask about how do you meet these people, because that determines how I'm going to put them into this workflow, how I'm going to make them vet themselves for me. And there's a lot of automation that we can build around this. And some people are scared to do this. But I tell you, if you have the clients and it's not about money, then you need to consider this. Now, I always say, beware the anecdote, right? It worked for me. Does that mean it'll work for you? Maybe not. Or it might work great, but you need to change a couple of things. So we always talk about beware the antidote. But I want to explain to you, Ben, kind of how I would do this. Is that okay?
That sounds great.
Okay. All right. So we got somebody, you met them, no matter how you met them. The first thing we want to do is we want to get some information about them. And usually the way we do this is we're having that conversation with them on the phone. We meet with them at their office, at a coffee shop or something like that. And we're asking them these questions like you mentioned, the transactions and all of this sort of thing. We can automate this. And I know what a lot of people are saying, but a lot of people won't want to share this information with me like that. That's fine. That means that they're not a potential client for you right now. Okay? That's what we got to understand, is that marketing is more about repelling the people that we don't want than it is attracting those that we do want. So that is a huge part of marketing. Have you ever heard the commercials where it says, attention men 50 to 80 without life insurance? All right. I'm only 47, so I'm already out of that. They're calling out their market. But we have to understand that most of the businesses out there, we don't want to serve. And when you're in your position, Ben, you don't have to serve anybody else. You want to grow, but you don't have to grow. So that's one thing. So what we want to do is we want to automate the process of getting them in front of you without wasting your time and their time. So here's what I propose. I would want to know, what are the things that you need to know before you would want to have a conversation with them to pre-qualify them? So I would, and you don't have to do it right now, but the process is for you to list out all of the things that you want to know that could be factors that you would want to say, no, this isn't a good client, or yes, this could be a good client. So that number of transactions, if they have payroll or not, if they, whatever the case is, we all have different ones. But what are those? What is a perfect client for you in that situation?
So it's kind of it's art and science, which is always the answer. But if I'm going to be really picky, I really want the most recent bank and credit card statement for everything that I'm ever going to put eyes on. Just as a baseline. I'll want most recently completed tax return. I'll want on the art side, I'll want to know where their goals are for their business. Do you have 2 rent houses that you're going to sit on, or do you have 100 rent houses that you're going to sit on? And just begin to collect that sort of information about who they are, what they're looking for. I've found that kind of helps me. Even especially that last question really helps me figure out where my role can be best for them, or if they even need me.
Now, for this process to work, I don't suggest that you ask them for sensitive information for obvious reasons there. So most people are not willing to upload a bank statement or a tax return to some form that's online. The real thing that you want to do here on a page, and I'll describe what this is here in just a second, how it flows, is just to get out of the way all of the, this is a funnel, right? So at the top, we start with a bunch of people, bunch of prospects, which is a good problem to have, and maybe only 30% of those make it to the next level, but we've eliminated 70% of the people that we shouldn't have talked to and we shouldn't have wasted their time or mine. And then maybe out of that 30%, 10% of those or 20% of those or whatever the case is become your client. But it's important that I think one of the things that we do as bookkeeping professionals is that somebody says, hey, I'd like to talk to you about bookkeeping. We're like, yeah, okay, awesome, because most of us are people pleasers. And we don't make our clients work for it. And that's one of the things that we need to do. So I would list out more of the things that kind of give you that warm fuzzy that you would want to take the next step, Ben. You can ask them some things that are, more high level. How many bank transactions do you have a month? And by bank transactions, I mean deposits, checks, debit card transactions. Define that, get very specific so that there is no ambiguity in their definition of that. One of the things also that you want to do in this is establish your authority. And you can do that indirectly in this form. Again, I'll talk about the logistics of it here in just a second. But when you're asking them questions that tells them that you know their business, you are an authority. So there's probably, every industry has its own nomenclature, its own language. Just like with doctors, everybody has I need a CBC. Does anybody know what that means? A doctor does. It means a complete blood count. There's a language. So if you said CBC to a doctor, they're going to think, oh, well, Ben has some medical training or some medical background. I'm establishing an authority with them. Now, they're not thinking, oh, Ben's a great authority. But indirectly in their subconscious, they're going, he gets me. He knows me. So I would ask questions for a dual purpose. One, to qualify them. Two, to display your authority. And by authority, we don't mean that you're trying to dominate somebody. We're trying to say, I am the man when it comes to bookkeeping for real estate investors or woman.
Right.
So does that make sense so far?
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Okay. So how would we go about doing this? Well, I like this thing called the World Wide Web to handle this for me. Because let's say that you're having a conversation with somebody and they say, you know what, I maybe like to chat with you. First thing I do is I kind of turn them away. And here's what I say is like, hey, that would be great. But first, I want to make sure, and I'm totally upfront with this, I want to make sure that I'm not wasting your time or my time. Because one of the things that I believe in is always providing value. I've heard you say that, Ben, and I know that you believe that. But I want to make sure that we're both making good use of our time. So here's what I ask. I ask you to go to lionsharebookkeeping.com/new client or something like that. What I would probably do is to buy a vanity URL and just redirect it to this so that it's shorter, like be my client or something like that.com, and then just redirect it over to this page where you have a short video that you record that says, hey, thanks for stopping by. I'm Ben Day, and I'm president of Lionshare Bookkeeping. I work only with real estate investors. As a matter of fact, I only work with a certain number And right now, it just so happens that I'm taking on some new clients. If you would like to have a conversation with me, and again, I would reiterate, hey, the reason that I'm doing this is that I want to make sure that I'm not wasting your time or my time. If you would like to, fill out the information below and click submit, and I'll get back to you. And you can kind of leave it to the next step there. One thing we don't want to do is that if they don't qualify, make it a hard where they're mad at you because you didn't qualify. I am very forthright with clients and telling them, hey, it's isn't a good fit because I think you're a weirdo. You showed up in a white panel van, and no, I'm just not going to work with you. A lot of people have problems with that. So that's a different story. But after they submit that, now you probably can weed out 70% of the people that you shouldn't be speaking with. So you're down, let's say you had 10 people that came through that, 3 people now you're going to have an actual conversation with. Now you've eliminated a big part of some of the leads that you don't need to be talking to. Can you see how this would help you now in your business?
Yeah, absolutely. No. We've got a ways to go, but yeah, I love that.
Okay. All right. And people think being hard to get is not the way to go. That's, and when you think back to it, people that are a little hard to get in the dating scene, or, if you're all over everybody, nobody wants to be there. The guy that's sitting at the bar being kind of cool, or the lady is the one that, people are like, hey, what's up with him? So that's the first thing. Now you get past that. So you got these 3 that are in your funnel that want to now have a conversation with you, and you pre-qualified. So now what we want to do is to get more into the weeds, the things that you just mentioned. But one thing that we don't really think about, and it's a truth, is that bookkeeping is first and foremost a relationship business. It's a relationship business. It's not a business built on numbers. It's not a business built on transactions. It's relationships. And the more that we can build this business on those relationships and not on numbers, the more that we will set ourselves up for success, no matter what comes down the road in terms of automation, artificial intelligence with bookkeeping. Nobody's going to want to have a relationship with a robot. So that's something that we have to keep in mind. So let me ask you this, Ben, has there been a situation where a client was perfect on paper, but you got them and they turned out to be a nut job?
Yeah, so many times. Yeah.
Okay. Give me just one quick example of how that happened. What led up to it? You said, "Hey, good client," and then later going, "Oh my gosh, he's an axe murderer."
So it really, oh man. So on paper, it's perfect, right? It's like you can begin to not stalk them on social media and see, okay, they've got volume, they've got their business built out, they're well known. Everything looks good. Then they apply for services. They give me the information that I'm asking for. I'm like, yeah, we can do this all day. I see everything. I've looked over your books. I see where the problems are. I know I can fix them. Let's do it. And then it just begins to sort of spiral out of control after that for whatever reason, where maybe they're hard to get a hold of. They're not the most pleasant to talk to. Or they defer to other people. They're like, hey, I'm the owner. I make all the decisions, but I don't want to get involved until everything's burning to the ground, which is not really the best thing to do with your bookkeeper in this role. But it gets gnarly pretty fast, especially when the communication isn't there.
Absolutely. So one of the things that we want to do inside of this interview process, which is what it is, right? It's a 2-way interview, them interviewing you and you interviewing them, is that we want to emulate as much as possible what the workflow is going to be like. So getting information back and forth, if you go and look, like how long did it take them to get the information that you asked for in the proposal process? If it takes them a week, and you're still dragging their feet and you're having to contact them, immediately I would drop that, because that's how they're going to be later down the road. Unless there's some sort of extenuating circumstances, but we want to put them in that position to go through this and to get us things that we need so that we can give them a proposal. When we're trying to get in touch with them, how responsive are they? I want to put them, so I would really figure out what are all the contexts in which I communicate with our client, because we all know that not getting information from our client is one of the biggest frustrations, or them saying, I don't know, and not taking a vested interest in their books. So what I try to do during that, we talked about, we started with 10, we whittled down to 3, and now what I'm doing is I'm putting these, and this takes time, right? So people are like, how do you have all this time? Well, because I didn't talk to those other 7. I didn't waste my time with them. So now I can spend the time that I would have spent with them vetting these 3. And so you're going to walk through that and put them, and so it's not a one conversation. Never, ever, ever, never, ever, ever give a proposal after you've talked to somebody once. This is at least 2, if not 3 to 4 conversations that you're going to have. They don't have to all be an hour long, but I want to see my client. I want to give them homework at each stage, and I want to preamble it with saying, look, there's going to be some work for you to do on the front end, but pretend that you're going to a new doctor, and this is all about your health. What does she want you to do? Well, she wants you to fill out a bunch of paperwork. She wants to get paperwork from your prior physician. Why? So that she can make an accurate diagnosis. Everybody will do that for their doctor. Well, they should do that for you because you're the doctor of their finances, sort of. So that's something that we want to do, want to explain. And up front, tell them that this process that you're going to go through with me ain't like any other process you've been with an accountant or book.
I love that. Yeah. And so let's maybe get into the weeds a little bit on this here, because it's so easy and it seems really attractive to be able to have one conversation with somebody and close that deal right then and right there, which is basically the exact opposite of what you're talking about. And I love that because it really begins to set the stage in the relationship. As if we're thinking about the web address where it's like, hey, thank you so much. If you want to apply, answer all of these technical questions and 2 or 3, tell me your favorite color and where you like to eat or whatever it is, and I'll get in touch with you. Once we have that first conversation with somebody who's been qualified on the technical end, what kind of homework do you begin to give to have those follow-ups and those additional conversations before the proposal?
So what kind of homework do we normally give our clients in a bookkeeping context?
Yeah. Receipts and statements and who knows, all kinds of weird stuff, invoices. Yeah.
Well, immediately after you have that conversation, you're saying, look, here's my laundry list of items I would like to see. Your latest financial statements, if you want to get access, read-only access to something, if you want to see their statements, if you want to see their tax returns, that simulates what they're going to be getting you month in, month out in your bookkeeping work with them, right?
Right.
That's stuff that you need to see. And, tell them, time is of the essence here. We like to move fast because this is how we work. And we want to make sure that you work fast too, because one of the keys to having financial statements is having timely and accurate financial statements. So we like to keep up with things. Now, also on your side of things, after they click that submit form, practice what you preach there. Follow up with them quickly. It doesn't have to be the same day, but, hey, let's get this going, or no, this isn't going to work out. So does that make a little bit of sense of how we're building this process into the interview, and we're treating it like an interview?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Now, it's not fail safe. You can still put people through this and you're still going to get some nut jobs, right? That's life. Now, one of the things, let me ask you this, Ben. How much pushback, or do you get any pushback on your prices, your fees?
All the time.
All the time?
Maybe not. Well, yes, basically. That's the answer I'm comfortable giving, so that's what I'll give. I get a lot of pushback locally because most of the conversations and sales that I have are with people who maybe have 2 or 3 houses. But then as soon as I begin to reach out nationally, which is kind of the next really big goal for me to build that part out, price is no issue. I mean, everything's cheap in Oklahoma. You can go buy a house for 10 grand. And so they're like, why would I pay some yahoo, $300-$400 a month if I can just go buy a house for that, or 2 houses for that, or whatever it is. And so there's a balance there, and that's something that I'm trying to begin to figure out as well.
Okay. All right. So one of the things I would encourage you to do on that front is really to get specific about who is your ideal client.
Yeah.
because this is going to have a lot of bleed over into the qualification process. And the process that I encourage you to use is Digital Marketer's Avatar Creation Worksheet. That's free. You can go out there and Google that, Digital Marketer Avatar Creation Worksheet. They've done a great blog post on that as well. We most of the time, we think we know who we want to serve, but do we really get nitty gritty with that? And when we have that, when we have our ideal and then we have somebody realistic, how close do those align? And that's one of the things that we want to do during this vetting process, in the qualifying process of leads. And it does take time, right? I always say, slow to hire, quick to fire. You want to be slow to bring on clients, and if they're nut jobs, quick to get them off of your lap. That's an important thing to do right there. But really go through and nail down who is your client, right? If they only own 2 houses, I would say that, hey, my perfect client owns 10 or more properties. She's owned them for this, whatever attributes that they have. These are the magazines she reads. This is how old she is. This is where she lives. I mean, it goes through a bunch of different things. These are her interests. This is why she's doing it. And a lot of this you probably already know. But do you have 1 or 2 clients that every time you see an email from them or a phone call that you just light up because you're like, cool, I get to chat with them or hang out with them or work with them?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Take them and list out why you beam like that, why you smile like that, what makes you like them. That's one of the things that I would do that's going to help you to build that avatar. All this works together in a qualifying process, okay? So there is a method to all of this madness. But one of the things that I would encourage you to do, since you do get price, people that object, if you will, to your price, is on that very first sheet or that very first web form, underneath the video that you create that says, thank you for stopping by, I would say, what is your budget for bookkeeping? And you can do it in 2 ways. One is you can use logic. So if they put in, you can do it like a pull down. If you're doing a form, a Google form, and embedding that or whatever. I'm not going to get into the technical part of that. But you can say, if they are below your minimum, you can say, hey, just want you to know my minimum is X amount per month. And that right there is going to get rid of those people who think, they want a Cadillac at what was that car? The Yugo price, right? And so I like to put that on there. I don't like to put my prices on the site directly, but indirectly when I have somebody who's sort of qualified, who I send to that page, I want them to know, hey, everything else can be great, but if your budget is beanie weenies and you want, sirloin from me, that's not going to work. So I would encourage you to put that on there so that you don't have anybody from a price perspective, because if you say your minimum is $500 a month and they're thinking $100 a month, that's a bridge too far. If they're thinking maybe $300 or $400, then they're probably going to still have a conversation with you. But don't budge on that pricing. So we got them. So we got the 10 people. We're down to 3, and now inside of that 3, we're asking them to give us stuff. We're asking them, and most people, what they're doing, they're getting that to do one thing, and that's to give them a proposal. And that's certainly something that we need to do. But you're going to insert one other thing here. And this is where you deliver value in advance. A session where you take the information that they have given you, and I want you to tell them how to better run their business, how to improve their profitability. And people are like, oh no, I'm giving that away and they haven't paid me a dime. That's absolutely right. Value first. You put enough value into the marketplace, you will get value in return. Some people will take that information and run with it and make $1 million. Good for them. You just created a ton of value. But you're in a position right now where you don't have to have these clients. So take all of the pressure off, and right before the proposal, deliver that value in advance. This is going to take you some time. This is going to take some research. It's probably going to take a little bit of money. And it is intentional. Because once you deliver that value in advance and you have that session, let's drop the mic and walk off the stage. Because they're like, wow. They already know your price minimum. And now you've delivered that. And we haven't even talked about numbers. We haven't even talked about how much they're going to pay and invest you. But if I just showed a business owner how to improve profitability by $10,000 or $100,000, it doesn't matter. And my proposal comes in at $600 a month, is she going to balk at that? If she's a sane person, or no, she's not. She's thinking, Ben just gave me more advice, and direct tactics and actions that I can do to make money in one session that probably lasted 45 minutes to an hour than I've had my entire life from professionals. And at the end of that conversation, you say this. You basically say, all right, we've outlined how you can do this. We've outlined the steps. Would you like some help?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that.
I'll have to give credit where credit due. That is from Frank Kern, a brilliant marketer and consultant who I learned that from. And it works. It only works every single time. So, it only has 100% effect. Now, what could still get in the way is the price. Okay. But you have not said, I can deliver value. You have actually delivered value. And you have to be okay with people walking away and never becoming your client. But once they say, yeah, I want some help, cool. Is it okay if I give you a proposal? Yep. Now, one thing I do like to do, I don't like to go through the formal proposal process where you get paper. I like to do it right then and there. I like for you to already know before you had that conversation where you deliver that value, what you're going to charge them. So you basically go, here's what we got. Here's how much it costs. Are you in? And shut up. They can say yes or no.
I love that. So let's get distracted so we can get refined. There's a sales tactic where you pitch like 3 things in your proposal. We have like a main offer and then alternates. How do you feel about that as opposed to take it or leave it?
That's a good question, because the way that I did my when I was growing up when I was building the bookkeeping business, I didn't know that tactic. I would say on things like this that we have questions that we test. At first blush, I kind of don't like it. I kind of like to go in with my best and say, here's what I got. If you really like the advice part and you like what you just did with the client, you obviously want to have them in some sort of advisory package, if you will, where you're giving them more than just a balance sheet and an income statement and a statement of cash flows. You better be giving them that statement of cash flows. If you're not doing anything above that, then that's a different story. But I know what you're talking about. It's like we've done this in pricing tables where the one in the middle is kind of like the gravy. You have a value on one end, an elite on the other end. The middle is kind of the
most popular choice or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, most popular choice. We all see that. Here's what that does, and I'm going off the cuff here. It creates a decision point for your client, for your prospect. And they don't like, and more decision points that they have to have, kind of where you are now, right? At the beginning, they had to do a lot of decisions because you were qualifying them. But now it's like, do you want some help? Yes, I do. Okay, here's what I got. And then here's how much it is. Are you in? They got one decision to make. Are they in? Yes or no? That's all they got to do. And I would encourage you, that you stick to your pricing, that you never, ever, 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 never, ever budge for any reason, especially if it comes to friends and family. People are like, well, I give discounts to friends and family. No, you should double them if you don't really want to work with them. Ask me how I know. But that process right there, while simple, it's not easy and quick to implement, but some of it can be done very quick. Like getting that paid. Like the first thing for you to do is to go through all of these exercises. And obviously you can go back and listen to this as a recording, but listen to those things that you need to do, right? To list out what are those qualifiers, to go through that avatar worksheet. That's one of the first things that I would do to really nail down who is your ideal client. Once you have that, now that information from that avatar worksheet, your most ideal client, can be emulated. What of that information isn't too invasive that I can put on the qualification page? And it just flows down now to once they submit that information, it's coming to you and you go, is this a good candidate? Yeah, that's a good one. Let's schedule a time. Here's my Calendly link. Go schedule a time with me. Mm-hmm. And for the ones that aren't, just say, not a good fit. And, could you provide them with some value down the road? Absolutely. That's a topic for another day.
Right. Exactly.
So qualifying leads, does that give you some real world tangible stuff that you can do to help with that process?
Yeah. That is the core. There's so much out and around that's like, oh, well, you should do. It's exactly like that multiple choice question where it's like, Do you sell an adorable little $7 ebook or whatever it is to begin to drive more traffic? But the core of it really should remain the same, where you qualify and then you qualify and then you qualify, and it's conversations and you emulate the workflows. I really like that.
Yep. And all of that, the reason that you're doing that, I mean, at the end of the day, we're not doing this to be ogres. You want to serve your client to the best of your ability. And knowing that this is first and foremost a relationship business, doing this is what we're doing. We're vetting them, and we're letting them vet us, because we might be somebody that they think is a weirdo that they don't want to work with. We want them to have multiple touch points with us so that they can see how we work with them. But again, I want to stress it works two ways, right? If you're expecting quickness from them, then you need to be quick in return, in response. And you want to make sure that the clients that you're working with are all joys, that every time that all of them call or email you, not that they're all perfect and you want to hang out with them, but they make you smile because you like giving them your all, and they're willing to pay you for that because they know the value you bring to the table.
Yeah, no kidding. That's the rub.
All right. Well, I hope that helps. And Ben, you know that I'm available to you as a member of Bookkeeper Elite to help in any way. And I thank you for being on here today and sharing your war stories with us.
Thank you so much. I really have thoroughly enjoyed this. I've got tons of value.
I have too. So thank you so much, Ben Day.
Thank you.
Listen, if you would like to hear more great conversations just like today's, then I want you to head on over to ilovebookkeeping.com. There, you're going to find all of the shows, the notes, and some other great goodies that we have for you there. Now, if you'd like to be a guest on the I Love Bookkeeping show, there is a link that says Be a Guest. Go in there and we'll walk you through the process of getting on the show. And finally, to discover more about our programs, go to the courses page on the ilovebookkeeping.com site. There you have it, another great episode of I Love Bookkeeping. Thank you for being a proud listener, and thank you for being a bookkeeping professional. Enjoy the rest of your week.
I love bookkeeping.